Welcome to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. You don't know, my name's Chad. Take a dive on sports. Welcome to the recap of NFL Week 11. Kind of go over my last week performance. Kind of go over a little highs and lows of each game and how well I did. And it wasn't that well. So before I dive into my misery that was the Week 11 NFL, if you could, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, especially the content provider. Really pleases you two guys. Really helps the channel out. You also subscribe. Love you guys review my work, and I love you all for doing that. Now, me subscribe. This costs you a dime. It's me provide more time value for you. Now, if you caught my college football recap video over the weekend, I went undefeated. I think I used all my mojo for college football because it did not transpire with the NFL. I did horribly. Last week on the NFL, I went 8-6. This week, I reversed the order. I went 6-8. I could not pick anyone. It's like everyone I try to pick, they just fail to show up, or they just coughed it up at the very end. And a lot of these games came down to the very end, so just, not be able to close out games, and then it is what it is, it looks like. But let's go ahead and revisit last Thursday up there at Lambeau Field as the Green Bay Packers play host to the Tennessee Titans. Now here I went with Green Bay. I thought Green Bay was actually back. They actually found ways to make things more advantageous to really help out Aaron Rodgers, and then he kept, you use his running backs and hit his receivers. But there was something off with Green Bay. I think Tennessee Titans' defense is a lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for, because they put a lot of pressure on Aaron Rodgers, and his offensive line wasn't really helping out much, which kind of negates the running attack, which means he spends more time trying to pass. And if he's rushed, he's not making accurate throws. I mean, there was a whole scheme that the Titans' defense did. The Packers had no answers for Tannehill and the Titans. Tannehill had over 300 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry wasn't a huge factor. I mean, he still had 87 yards of bruising yards for a touchdown. And the Titans were just able just to kind of etch away and keep going and battling. And you see there are time frames where Aaron Rodgers had a receiver and either underthrew, overthrew. It was just a lot of this was on Aaron Rodgers, and he took full credit for it at the end of the game that he didn't play well. Especially with Detroit. I mean, he didn't play well with Detroit, a few weeks back, and he took credit for that. Yeah, this one's all on Aaron. It was just something that he couldn't make the right decisions when he had to. So this was a learning experience, to say the least. I mean, they tried to come back. They got it up to 20-17, but Tennessee was just way too much for them. They shut down any more Green Bay advances in the fourth quarter. Ended up leaving Lambeau 27-17 to start my week off with a loss. Then we head down to hot Atlanta as the Falcons play host to the Bears. Now, Atlanta was favored by 3 heading into this one. I still went with Chicago, so I still thought it was a toss-up game between these two teams, and they're basically built about the same. I mean, they both had great tight ends. You had Pitts and Kmet. Quarterbacks, I mean, Mariota is an old staple. Justin Fields is the young gun, and I think Mariota is a little bit better just because being a veteran, he has more experience in this aspect. Justin Fields has a lot of raw talent, and he's a dual threat quarterback. Running back game, I think that's more Cordell Patterson's more Atlanta. I think defenses are kind of a little bit similar. And you saw that in the game. They went tick for tack. I mean, they kept you score, I score, and it was like you make a touchdown, I score a touchdown. You make a field goal, I make a field goal. I mean, it was that type of game. Cordell Patterson then returned a 103-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He now has the most kickoff returns for touchdowns in NFL history. Devin Hester has the most returns for touchdowns. Cordell made his name more for kickoff returns. I think Devin Hester's more of a punt return specialist. We had a few kickoff returns go back as well. But anyways, get off topic. But they were going back and forth on this one, even with the highlight of Patterson scoring that touchdown. Chicago had the ball late in the game. They were driving, and Justin Fields threw an interception to Jalen Hawkins. He iced it for the Falcons to escape a comeback victory from Chicago and held on and won 27-24. Give me loss number 2. Then we head to Detroit, where the Bills are playing host to Cleveland. That's right, because of a snowstorm in Buffalo, in which the Bills team waited to the last minute to leave Buffalo to go to Detroit. They didn't leave before the blizzard hit. They left after the blizzard hit. So I don't know whose brainchild that was. But they left, went to Detroit. Detroit welcomed them with open arms. Became pretty much their second home. And Jacoby Brissett actually put in pretty good showing for the Browns. He ended up having over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. So Cleveland wasn't really an easy out. It was just the Bills had to find a way to make scoring drives and get Stephon Diggs into the mix and Singletary and Josh Allen and just work at the defense. Had to do kind of some of their things. I mean, it was 13-10 at halftime for Buffalo. It wasn't until the fourth quarter where Cleveland scored, majority of their points. But Buffalo was able to hold on to stay off any late Cleveland comeback and beat them 31-23. The Bills were able to successfully win on a neutral site and get my first victory of the week. Then we head to Indianapolis, where the Eagles came to town to take on the Colts. Now, everyone was going with Philadelphia because they thought there's no way that the Colts would be able to pull this one off. Remember, the Colts beat Kansas City under Reich. Now you got Saturday, who already has his first victory already this season last week. He's got this team believing in themselves. And they put up some numbers. They were trying to run the ball, which is something that, Jeff Saturday believes in. Run the ball. You control the game that way through the line of scrimmage, through the big guys on the line, creating the holes, let the little running backs run. That allows for play action to hit the receivers. Matt Ryan is your veteran quarterback. I mean, he had a game plan. Indianapolis was implementing that game plan. Philadelphia had no answers for 3 quarters of the game. None. Unfortunately, Indianapolis offense could not score more touchdowns. They kept settling for field goals, which you cannot do with this team. Heading into the fourth quarter, it was a 13-3 Indianapolis advantage. I'm like, okay, maybe I was right about this one. And then start the comeback of Philadelphia. They get to 10. Indianapolis gets another field goal to get them a 6-point victory. And then Jalen Hurts once again running with the ball. Goes into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown. Indianapolis was driving. Matty Ice threw another pick. That was it. Philadelphia came from behind to beat Indianapolis 17-16 and gave me loss number 3. Then we head to Foxborough, where the Patriots were taking on the Jets. And this was a game that looked like it should be a decent one between Zach Wilson and Matt Jones. And for the most part, it was really an inept offensive performance. They did not do a lot, especially for the Jets. They were just, couldn't really put forth any effort in the offensive game plan. You only made a field goal. There was quite a few that were missed because of the wind and whatnot. Jones actually had almost 250 yards passing, so the Jets' defense were a bend, don't break type of philosophy that they were allowing the Patriots to move the ball, but only coughed up 3 points, which is exactly what your defense wanted to do. You limit opportunities of the opposing offense, limit the amount of points scored, so it's up to the offense to do the same, put some points on there, so it makes the job for the defense easier. And that's the problem. The Jets' offense was missing. One of their jet engines was not functioning properly, so they couldn't get the correct altitude, and it was just they were just not jiving as well as they used to. And this game was just a sloppy affair by the Jets. Great defensive performance by the Jets. And we had to the fourth where the Jets just couldn't get a first down and then punting it. Didn't go for it fourth because they're on their own end. They punt the ball. Marcus Jones returns it for 84 yards for a touchdown. The only touchdown in the game was a special teams play. That was it. That was all needed. Closing seconds ticked away. The Patriots beat the Jets 10-3. After this game, Zach Wilson's press conference, he kind of said, a reporter asked him, "Do you think that the defensive down we performs?" He goes, "No," and didn't say anything else. So I think Zach Wilson's going to find himself in some hot water and probably riding the bench for a while. But that was a great performance all around by the defenses. There's no question about that one. That was a great defensive showdown and a huge special teams play. They ended up winning it and give me my second win of the week. Then we head down to New Orleans, where Andy Dalton was playing host to the LA Rams. And this one I went with the Rams, so I figured with these two teams, and I changed my pick to the Rams, by the way. And these two teams were just pretty much on the same level. Andy Dalton has flashes of greatness, but he throws the picks off. I think injuries are catching up with the Rams. Not having Cooper Kupp, who's now on the IR. Matthew Stafford's not playing up to par. The defense is just a shell of its former self. Regardless of the talent on that defense, they're not the same. They won Super Bowl. They don't have the same fire, the same desire. Maybe because they know, they go, well, I'm going to be back out here in about 5 minutes anyways. Well, I'm going to put forward a lot of effort now. I'm going to be back here later because their offense sucks. I think that's what it really is. Akers tried to do his best for the Rams running attack, but didn't really put much up. Andy Dalton, 260 yards in the air with 3 touchdowns. Olave was his prime target with over 100 yards and a touchdown. It was a back-and-forth game in the first half. It was 14-10 to half for the Rams, but then once second half hit, the Saints offense lit up, jumped out 14 points unanswered. Was able to hold on and beat the Rams 27-20. Give me a loss number 4. Then we at the MetLife where the Giants were playing host to the Lions, and this is the game I said Detroit's going to come out here and take it to the Giants. And did they ever? The dual-headed running attack by Detroit was more than enough for the Giants' defense. They had no answers for Swift or Jackson. Daniel Jones tried to do his best for the G-men. He had over 340 yards passing. 100 of those yards went to Robinson. They tried. They just could not muster anything. The Lions were just able to move the ball well. Jared Goff is still a decent quarterback. So he's able to, find a ways. The running attack was just running how they should go, and it's just nothing but Detroit. They were up 17-6 at the half. Never looked back as they pretty much routed the G-men. The fourth quarter points, you can take them as you want. But they routed the Giants 31-18. They'll go to 4-6 in the season and make the bottom of that NFC North interesting with Chicago. Give me my third win, and I think from here on out, I'm just going to go tell you the ones that did win. Then we had the Baltimore, and this game was also pretty much like the Patriots and Jets game. There's an ugly contest. Baker Mayfield tried his best to go after his old foe in Baltimore. And all around, they were doing a lot of things they wanted to do. They were, like I said, Carolina's battling above the weight class because they don't have the talent anymore. They trade away, McCaffrey, so that's a huge piece they're missing. The quarterback issue is still a big, huge question mark. Even you got Baker Mayfield, I still think is a decent quarterback if he's given the right situation. And yes, Sam Darnold, who knows what his stats going to be with Carolina when he comes back next year. P.J. Walker is a great backup, and I think what he's going to be in the NFL. And it's just one of these weird games that, it was a bend don't break philosophy. I mean, it really was. It was only 3-0 in the half for Baltimore. Heading to the fourth, it was 3-3. It was, like I said, an ugly, ugly contest. It wasn't for a Lamar touchdown, rushing touchdown, so to say. In the fourth, that pretty much put the game away as Baltimore ended up beating Carolina 13-3 in one of the ugliest games, I think, out there besides the Pats and Jets. And giving me win number 4. Then we head down to H-Town where the Texans are playing host to the Commanders. And I said last week, Commanders have an identity. They have a purpose. They have a goal now. They believe in Heineke. They're behind Ron Rivera. But I looked at this game. I thought Houston had a shot to, use that momentum against Washington and be able to, flip the script on them. But Washington came in there like AEW and started suplexing Damian Pierce and just taking the Texans out of their game right from the get-go. They jumped up 20-0 at half. Then look back. Houston, they managed a few points here and there, but they couldn't muster anything else beyond that as Washington went down to Houston and beat them 23-10. Then up to Mile High where the Broncos and Raiders are clashing. The Raiders have yet to win in a road game. Denver's at home. Figured be a key thing for them to actually get a nice win against their divisional foe. The Raiders are just looking inept. Carr's like this. I wish people cared about this team like I did and put forth the effort. So he's taking a shot at his own teammates. I thought the locker room's in disarray. The coaching is just horrible. Denver's coaching is just as bad. And the quarterback is just, and both these teams are not performing the way everyone in the preseason thought they were. Like myself, I had a lot of high hopes for Denver, and that just went away. I thought the Raiders would be decent enough to make the playoffs, but I didn't think they'd be this bad. And once again, another fugly game. 10-7.5 for the Broncos. Ended up going into overtime, tied at 16. Overall, Derek Carr himself did not have a very bad game. Over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both those touchdowns went to his homie, Devontae Adams. He had over 104 yards receiving. Jacobs had over 100 yards rushing. So the Raiders' offense was doing what they're supposed to do. They weren't putting up a lot of touchdowns, which was kind of a bad thing. And the second touchdown between Carr and Adams didn't happen to the overtime period. And that was it. The Raiders went into Denver, beat the Broncos in overtime 22-16. Put both of them in 3-7, giving the Raiders their first road win of the season. And it's just one of those weird things dealing with that AFC West. Then we have to Minnesota, where you have probably the two best teams in the NFC going at it, with the Vikings playing host to Dallas. And, I went with Minnesota because they're a better team. At least they looked a better team previously to this. Somebody forgot to tell that to the Vikings, that, hey, you're supposed to be the better team. Act like you're the better team. They act like they were, the old Detroit Lions that went 0-16. They looked terrible. They had no answers for Zeke, for Pollard, for Prescott. It did not matter. Dallas was doing anything and everything they wanted to do. They had no issues. Micah Parsons was wreaking havoc in the backfield. Kirk Cousins had no time. Dalvin Cook couldn't get open and do anything. And Kirk Cousins is taken out. Jefferson's not, creating highlight reel catches. Dak Prescott had over 270 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns went to Pollard, who had 100 yards, over 100 yards receiving, and 80 yards on the ground. So he was a huge part of that offense. As Dallas decimated the Vikings 40-3, which is the largest victory I think in Cowboys history, which is shocking. That winning by 37 is the biggest victory ever. And the embarrassing loss for the Vikings being 8-1 and just getting manhandled at home. Maybe this lights a fire in Minnesota to kind of go, hey, we kind of wake up. They're at the Steel City where the Bengals wearing their whole white uniform, so for once again be known as the Zebras, taking on the Steelers to try to see if the Steelers could try to win, to maybe get at least a winning season. But I think Cincinnati had other ideas. But it was 20-17.5, so it looked like a very close contest. But Cincinnati was just doing just enough to make it, just tick away. Burrow had over 350 yards in the air with 4 touchdowns. T. Higgins, his favorite target, almost 150 yards with no touchdowns. Najee Harris actually showed up for the Steelers. He had actually 2 rushing touchdowns. But Cincinnati was able to hold on and escape Pittsburgh with a 37-30 victory to keep pace with the Ravens for the North Division title, and giving me victory number 5. We had to L.A. where the Chargers playing host to the Chiefs in a huge divisional showdown between these two. The Chiefs already won the first matchup in Kansas City, and I thought this is when the Chargers could actually win because they're at home. I figured, some things are going the right direction. Maybe they could surprise the Chiefs here and there because it's a divisional game. I think it actually happened, and the Chargers were doing that in the beginning of the game. They were up 20-13 at half, so things were going in their direction. And it was 20-16. The Chiefs then were able to score a touchdown, putting up 23-20. Chargers follow suit. Chiefs get the ball. They scored a touchdown, put them at 30-27. Going back and forth, this is what the type of game you're really looking at, because Mahomes had over 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. All 3 of them went to Travis Kelce, his favorite receiver. He had 115 yards receiving. Pacquiao actually had over 100 yards rushing, first time in his career. As those are the highlights of the Chiefs after they scored their that last touchdown. When the Chargers had the ball, they were marched down the field. Herbert was flushed out. He threw it. Probably rushed the throw, or they were think about it. Try to throw the receiver and then get it tipped. They got intercepted. That was it. End of the game. Chiefs escape L.A., sweeping the Chargers, beating them 30-27. Probably becoming the number one team, becoming the number one favorite, I think, for the Chiefs to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. I think this is another one of these games that puts Patrick Mahomes on the top of the list for MVP candidates. I think Tua's on that list. Jalen Hurts is on that list. I still put Josh Allen on there. But, those 4 right there, I think those are the main guys you think you got to look at for MVP. And then head down to Mexico, where the Cardinals and 49ers are playing the last international game of the NFL season. Things like the 5th time they played down in Mexico. They just love, watching the NFL come down there and play. And the Cardinals being banged up. Kyler Murray's out once again. This is McCoy's team. And Colt McCoy is actually a decent quarterback, so don't just down on him whatsoever, because he has been a starter before. So he knows how to handle this type of pressure, and he was actually doing decent enough as he could with the weapons that he had. But there's so many weapons that the 49ers have to try to corral them as best as you can. If you take away one, there's like 3 others that cop up and go, Then you have the 2 receivers you got to worry about. You got to worry Aruke and Deebo Samuels. You also got George Kittle, a tight end. McCaffrey, it's a primary running back. We also have Mitchell as a backup running back. Jimmy G, of course, is your focal point for that offense. Trent Williams is your main point on the offensive line. And you look on the defense, is all based on Bosa. That offensive line and the 49ers defense is actually pretty stacked themselves. I mean, Lynch has put together a very good football program. Shanahan's coaching them very well. The 49ers look like they're in the prime position to hit the streak at the right time. So it's going to be one of these dangerous teams. Prove the point here. As Jimmy G ended up having 4 touchdowns for just over 200 yards. Kittle was a key to 2 of those touchdowns. As the 49ers were leading 17-10 at the half, but once we came out, the 49ers defense shut the door on the Cardinals. That was it. That's all they scored, as San Francisco just ran away with the game, 38-10, 6-4, tie with Seattle in the NFC West lead. And like I said, it's going to make that second half look extremely well and give me my 6th and final victory to kind of end my miserable week on a high note. But there you go. That's the recap. Like I said, I went 6-8, not very well. I don't know what transpired in this one, but it's going to be a short turnaround because with the holiday weekend coming up, we don't have 3 games playing on Thursday. And as we know, Dallas and Detroit will always have that home game, and even Minnesota is getting into the action this year. So we'll see how things kind of transpire. I'll try to get that video out to you. I'll get that video out to you tomorrow. At time is recording this video and getting posted to be on Tuesday, so the next video will be out tomorrow, Wednesday. I gotta go over those picks. But hey, let me know down below which game surprised you the most. Which teams you think are destined for the Super Bowl? So right now, the biggest game I thought was the Dallas domination of the Vikings. And I am still going with my preseason picks of the Bills and 49ers. But there are definitely some other teams out there that could alter that. But hey, once again, just let me know down below. Once you're there, make sure you hit that thumbs up. You can also share this video with your friends and family. It helps promote this channel out. Once you hit that subscribe button, make sure you click that bell icon for any more notifications when I post any more content on my channel. And I will see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.